And it's a tremendous group, a very powerful group, I believe, who are here to talk about a variety of resources that are available for veterans and first responders across a gamut of different options, if you will. And I'd like to begin the day with Colonel Gregory Boyle. Greg is a retired, United States Marine Corps retired, full bird, 30 years with the infantry special ops background. He's the first commanding officer of the Marine Corps' Wounded Warrior Regiment. He's currently the senior director of the Semper Fi and recently America's Fund Veteran-to-Veteran program. He's been doing it for 8 years actually in that arena. Semper Fi and America's Fund cares for our nation's critically wounded, ill, and injured service members, veterans, and military families. Supporting all branches of the United States Armed Forces, the fund provides one-on-one case management, connection, and lifetime support. An amazing, I've seen certainly firsthand what Colonel Boyle and the fund has done, and it is inspiring for today, tomorrow, and together. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Colonel Gregory Boyle.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be here today. I'm glad to see so many folks came out for this event, and I understand this is the first inaugural one, and it's great. I'm sure you'll have many more. And as the word gets out, more and more folks will attend. Again, it's a distinct honor for me to be here. I work for a group, an organization, a nonprofit called Semper Fi, and that's what I'm going to talk about here today. I'll be fairly brief because a lot of this information that I will cover with you today is available on our website. So you can go and look up thefund.org and you can find out in much more detail all about our organization. Now, I did want to mention that every organization out there has a mission, and it was touched upon here. Our organization started in 2004, May of 2004. So next month is our 20th anniversary of going out and taking care of service members, veterans, military families. So we're really excited about it. We've been doing this job for quite a while. Started off with a couple of military spouses sitting around a kitchen table deciding that let's form an organization and fill a need that was out there. And it's grown into the organization that we're a part of here today. Now, this organization in 2004 started to take care, was formed to take care of Marines and sailors. We basically served together on ships and out in what we call the fleet, where our operating forces operate. And for the next 8 years, we took care of Marines and sailors. The word got out about the type of care that they were getting from our organization. And around 2010, 2011, we were contacted. We've been getting asked by soldiers, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, the other services, basically saying, can we get the same kind of care that you're providing to these sailors and to these Marines? So in 2012, we started a second fund, and it's called the America's Fund. So we have the Semper Fi and America's Fund, two different funds. Semper Fi Fund primarily geared toward Marines and sailors, and the America's Fund is geared towards all the other branches. And the reason we did that was because the money that was coming in needed to go, if we had people that wanted to donate to Marines and sailors, that money was provided to those individuals, and the other monies that were going to Air Force and Army, went into the America's Fund, and we used that money to take care of those individuals. So that's kind of a little bit about when we started, and why we have two funds, because a lot of people ask us that question. We have right now in the fund that we take care of about 32,000 service members, and that includes active duty, that includes veterans, and it includes military families. And we do have a very small sliver of folks that we take care of that are not in that group that I mentioned. And it could be a group like the Boston Marathon bombing victims. We did provide support to that group. We still do today. And there are some other smaller groups like that, but we're primarily a military support organization. Now, mentioning that, we do have some criteria. Just about every organization has some criteria to be eligible. You know, we have members. They join the fund and they become a member of the fund. And again, we primarily take care of all the services. We don't, unfortunately, you know, we're not large enough to be able to take care of first responders unless they have a military background. So, you know, I just want to make that clear right up front. The group that we largely take care of are post 9/11. Although we recently, back in 2018, we started another group, Lance Corporal Parsons Welcome Home Fund for Vietnam veterans. So if there are Vietnam veterans, you know, we have a very small capability. Those are folks who are very, very, very banged up, amputations, paralysis, severe TBI. Again, you know, there are so many Vietnam veterans out there. You know, we don't have the monetary resources or the personnel resources to take care of everybody. But for those who are, as I mentioned before, critically wounded, ill, or injured, those are the folks that we focus in on. So post 9/11 and those individuals who are critically wounded, ill, or injured. And so that's where we focus. And what we wanted, you know, like, there's millions of veterans out there in this country of ours. And again, we can't afford to, you know, take care of all of them with the resources that we have. So our focus is, you know, if I can just give a number, it's probably not accurate, but it's probably that top 5% of individuals who are, you know, severely injured or, you know, have a critical need. That's where we focus, because those are the ones who sometimes, you know, need a little bit of assistance, you know, due to their service-connected injury. Now, in terms of the, well, and let me just say too, I've been doing this, as was mentioned in the introduction, I've been doing this job now for over 8 years, going on 9 years now. The very first person when I joined this organization back in December of 2015 that I got a chance to work with and develop a relationship with was Mike Cataldi right there. He was my very, very first person right after I joined the fund. So Mike and I have known each other all that time, and you know, we've become, you know, close friends. And you know, he's doing a great job, and I'm glad to see that Mike is out here, you know, helping to organize an event like this to bring awareness to all the folks that are in here. Now, and I do want to emphasize that a lot of the stuff, unfortunately, like I said, we don't support every single military veteran out there. If we're not able to support you, then hopefully the information that you'll gather from my talk today, you'll be able to apply to somebody else. You may know a military veteran out there who is, you know, very critically injured, who needs support, and you can refer them to us, and then, you know, we'll pick it up from there. So basically, within our fund, we have 3 programs. First one I want to just briefly hit on is a service member and family support program. We have case management support. We have about 50 case managers. We have visiting nurses. We took the old Navy Marine Corps Relief Society program, 20 nurses, and we have 20 nurses who provide kind of a medical support network for us to be able to, if we have questions about a service member's medical needs, we can link them up with one of our visiting nurses and they can get support that way. We do provide caregiver retreats and programs. The caregivers out there, doing a tremendous job taking care of those service members. A lot of them have to give up their jobs. They have to, basically provide, 24/7 care to these individuals. And what we want to do is make sure that those caregivers are supported. And so we run some caregiver retreats where we take the caregivers away and we take them to a resort and we wine and dine them and, give them massages and, give all that, do everything we can to make them feel special and, show the appreciation for what they're doing out there. Specialized equipment. A lot of veterans, might need a certain type of mattress. They might need an alpha stem. There's all kinds of specialized equipment that they may need that may not be covered by insurance. Those are things that we can purchase and buy and provide to those individuals. We do housing assistance. Right now we're teamed up with the Tunnels to Towers. Some of you may have seen them on TV. We work with them, and we are in the process of taking homeless off the street. I think the goal that Tunnels to Towers has talked about is like 40,000 homeless veterans out there. We are we have started an effort last year to support that effort, and we've gone out Boston, New York City, LA. We're all over the country, and we're trying to find homeless veterans and get them back into housing. So that's one of the programs that we've got going on. We do run some transportation assistance. We also run some kids programs. And as I mentioned, we have that very small Vietnam program. Lance Corporal Parsons, most of you don't know who he is, but he's the founder of GoDaddy.com. And he was a Marine Lance Corporal, and he went out and spent his time in Vietnam, and he has donated, every year he's provided a match for our fund to help provide the money that we use to take care of our service members. So he's done a great job of giving back, using his financial resources to help others. The second program that we have is a transition program, and that's I'm part of that category. I run the Veteran to Veteran program, and I'm all over the country, all 50 states, also cover overseas. And basically what we do is we interface. I do everything but financial support. I don't do that. Our case managers handle the money side of the house. But I assist individuals with getting into some of our programs like Team Semper Fi. I help them with the veteran disability claims. I help them get into use their GI Bill or the voc rehab to go to school and get some education. So I'm basically, whatever they need, I'm going to figure out a way to deliver that support to them. That is our Veteran to Veteran program. As I was mentioning here at our table, our program is about 90% women that run it. Our program was founded by a group of women, like I said, sitting around the table, and they have grown this organization into a very effective organization. But sometimes the issue we run into is you have a veteran who has been to combat, and that individual is trying to talk to a case manager. That case manager has never served in combat, never served in the military, and that connection is sometimes not there. And so what we do is we'll take that veteran and we link that veteran up with somebody like me or some of the other veterans that we have in the room here, and all of a sudden they can make that connection. They can talk about the services they were in, the bases that they were located, the bantering that went back and forth between the services or within their groups, and they can make that connection. And so that's why we have a Veteran to Veteran program, to be able to make that connection with those service members. We also run a apprenticeship program. That apprenticeship program is basically some of these veteran entrepreneurs who want to start their own businesses. And we help them. Sometimes we give them as much as $25,000 seed money to help them get their organization started. And we do make them go through and write their own business plan and take the appropriate classes. We don't set them up for failure. We're trying to set them up for success. But that's one of the programs that we have out there. We also have an education coordinators that work, as I mentioned, the voc rehab, vocational rehabilitation, as well as the GI Bill, which is available, making sure that these veterans are taking advantage of that and hopefully getting the training to return back, as a highly productive citizen and supporting our country. We also run some unit reunions, which is kind of unusual because at those events, I've been to several of them. We'll run one up at a ranch in Colorado somewhere, and we'll have 300 veterans come in. They are not part of our organization. They're just a unit that served together in combat. In most cases, they will come in there for 3 days and they'll spend time together. And while they're there and together, that's an opportunity for us to talk about making sure that, and again, these are mostly people who have not, are not part of a nonprofit organization or not linked up, but they do have issues with TBI, they have issues with PTSD, they're having, connection issues. That's an opportunity for us to link them up and sit there and say, hey, look, these are the organizations out there that can support you. This is how you can get assistance. And we can direct them to the VA to get medical treatment, because a lot of them are dealing with severe PTSD, and they're trying to be a tough guy, which is what we train them to do, and they're not going out and seeking it. And we're telling them, hey, look, it's okay to get that help. It's okay to ask for assistance. We have the resources. We have nonprofits. We have the VA. We have other organizations out there that will go out there and do whatever they can to help you address your needs. So those unit reunions, we run about 15 to 20 of those every year. And that gives us the ability to talk to thousands of veterans that aren't part of our organization, to kind of guide them to get the support that they're going to require. The last large program piece that we have is an integrative wellness program. And basically what we're working on there is the body, the mind, and the spirit. And we're trying to help improve the health of all of our service members. We have a neurofitness program, which is basically about rebalancing the brain and improving individuals' cognitive performance. And so, we'll run them through this program. It's a month-long program that we run. We have an arts and music program. A lot of people respond to that, and that's part of our organizational. Every year around Christmas time, we put on a music program, and we bring our veterans back in to run and play various songs and music, Christmas related, so that they can show their skills and talents. We run a canine program. We are partnered up with another nonprofit which actually produces service dogs. What we have is basically helping individuals who own a dog who want to turn it into a service dog. We will go out and we will provide the funding and set up the training for some of these individuals to take their personal dog and turn it into a service dog. A lot of them don't want to take an outside service dog. They want to use their own pet. So we make the resources available to them to help them do that. On our website, we do have a lot of post-traumatic growth videos that are available. So for service members to go out there, and if you want to sit there in your house and you want to play some of those, you can go on there and find those videos. And they're really pretty good. We have one that's nationally known. It's called Cover Me. And so those, what we're trying to do is not just have people deal with post-traumatic stress, but have people grow beyond that and kind of put that behind them. Not easy to do, but us and a lot of other programs, I know that's kind of our goal, is to grow beyond, this, put it to bed, or put it, get it to a point where you can handle it, you can manage it, and you can continue to move forward. We also have a Team Semper Fi program, which I believe Mike is a member of that. And we run every year we do the Marine Corps Marathon. We bring in about 500 family members and veterans to come in down into DC, and we put them up for 3 or 4 days down there, and they go out and run the Marine Corps Marathon, whether they're running the 10K or the marathon. And I think Mike's talked about the 50K.
Sure.
50K this year, okay? That's about 49 and a half more Ks than I'm gonna do. That's not happening. Those days are over. Let the young guys like Mike do that. But it's a great program. We take service members and we send them down to the National Golf Course in DC, and they go play, spend 2 or 3 days down there playing golf. We send people over to Idaho for a skiing weekend. We do whitewater rafting down in North Carolina. A lot of these veterans, because they're disabled, they're not able to go out and sometimes seek full-time employment. They just can't get around, or they're still dealing with PTSD. So to have the ability to go do these things that other normal people are doing, they don't have the financial resources to do it, or they're not mobile enough to be able to get there on their own. So we provide those opportunities for them. We pay for all of it. We'll work on getting, if they're in a wheelchair, we'll get them set up with special flights to be able to fly them into the event, and completely take care of them out there. The goal there is to, number one, work on their physical health. Like I said, body, mind, and spirit. We want to get them out. We don't want them sitting at home, playing video games, or, not getting out, adding on, a lot of extra pounds, damaging impacting their body, if you will. So that Team Semper Fi is a great program. Get everybody out, get them doing the things that they like, develop, help them get a hobby, and then again, we can support them as well. I know Mike really got into cycling, and we were able to, get Mike a bike to go out there and do that, and other programs, whatever it is. So that is kind of an overview of my organization. We do have if you or somebody that you know wants to be a member of Semper Fi and America's Fund, you can go on our website. I've got some brochures over here. I'll make those available to everybody, but it's thefund.org, and down there at the bottom section, it'll say something like need assistance, and you click on that down there, and there's a contact form. You fill out that contact form, tell us who you are, and one of our intake case managers will give you a call within a couple days, and they'll take a look at your DD-214 and your VA rating letter, and you got to have both of those 2 documents, and then they'll make a decision on whether we can get you into the fund or not. So with that, are there any questions for me at this time? I'll be around here, so if you don't want to bring the question up in front of everybody, please feel free to grab me. If not, I'll entertain any questions that anybody might have at this time. I'll turn it back over. Okay, thank you.
So I'm just going to do a quick blurb, a quick public service announcement, if you will, for the Maine Masonic Charitable Foundation. In Maine, we have a charitable foundation that donates to a number of things. First and foremost is to our members through Brotherhood Grant and more larger grants for folks that are really in need. In our lodge, as many of our members will recall, we supported a daughter of one of our members, Martin and Debbie Shepard, daughter, who had a difficult, very, very difficult time. But the Maine Masonic Charitable Foundation, just this last year or a year and a half, because I want to throw in a major effort that we did, has donated over $80,000 to veterans services and first responder services in Maine. I think many of you are probably aware of Operation Reboot, which is an effort to get veterans and I think first responders actually into the out of doors. They provide hunting trips, fishing trips, and other outdoor adventure events. Over the last year and a half, through matching grants, we provided over $60,000 to support that program. The Masonic Services Association, a nationwide organization for serious weather events and other things, but also especially for our veterans, has a very active program, and we donate annually to that. We support veterans' homes to about approaching probably in toto close to $10,000 a year. We support the Maine Veterans Dental Program through a matching grants program that last year was about $18,000. And for homeless prevention services, we donated $20,000 directly to that. And you may be aware of it sounds like that's not good. Vets in Booth Bay, there's a couple of men who are, George, you may well know about this, who are reconditioning storage containers, I believe, into short-term living homes for veterans, and you both may be well aware of that. At any rate, that's just part of what we do. In addition, we support NAMI, it's a National Alliance on Mental Illness. In the last few years, we've provided over $135,000 for that effort in Maine for suicide prevention, training, awareness, and other things relative to that. So, just to let you know that, especially Masons in the room, that the Maine Masonic Charitable Foundation supports our veterans very aggressively. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. I think you're going to find a common theme here today. One of the reasons I was excited about today was to get, as I was mentioning to Allie earlier, is to get the different resources, the people involved in those resources together, so you can get to see face to face as opposed to on a telephone or computer screen or something, and get to know each other and to be able to connect a little bit and maybe work a little bit more efficiently. So our next speaker is Command Sergeant Major Ray Edgar, retired U.S. Army. And with him today, I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce Justin Crockett. Justin is the Development Director of the Travis Mills Foundation. And it's good to have you here, and we'll talk more later as well. At any rate, Ray served in the United States Army for 27 years as a scout and a paratrooper, responsible for conducting reconnaissance, surveillance, and other direct combat missions. He is currently serving as a Warrior Path, that's P-A-T-H-H, guide, and I'll let him tell you what that stands for. Delivering the Warrior Path program at the Travis Mills Foundation. Warrior Path is the nation's first ever program designed to cultivate and facilitate post-traumatic growth in combat veterans and first responders, and enables these remarkable warriors to transform times of deep struggle into profound strength and growth. Warrior Path is a transformative, lifelong, post-traumatic, growth-based training program for combat veterans and first responders. The training begins with a 7-day on-site initiation at the Travis Mills Foundation that's followed by 90 days of training delivered by Path Guides, not clinicians who have all completed the programs themselves and are just a bit further on the path. Ray also serves as a volunteer at the Travis Mills Foundation. Sergeant Edgar.
No, I'm good. Thank you. So that just saved me a bunch of time. I was like, I was going to have to read the definition of the job I actually do.
Yeah, you wrote it.
I know. I was like, that sounds familiar. I guess the best path is just like the acronym says, Progressive Alternative Training for Helping Heroes. And it's an experiential. I don't want to explain to you what we do because it has to be experienced. My experience and someone else's experiences are completely different. So what I will do is tell you what it did for me. I'm going to tell you my story. And I might get a little emotional because this month of April is a lot of anniversaries. At the end of last month, there were 3 of my guys that were killed, and I'll get into a little bit more of that. And these anniversaries physiologically come up in my body. And then couple days ago, there was an incident where I lost 4, and then on the 22nd of this month, it was a bad month, we lost 9 all in one incident. I'll get into a little bit more of that. So, path for me was, I did a couple trips to Iraq, and each time I came back, I was a little bit different. Actually, a lot different. And prior to going, I'd like to stand up here and give you some, manly speech about how I was changed by combat, and that's true. But I was changed by someone else's combat. My father was a World War II veteran, and in the home, if you live with a combat veteran or a first responder who struggles with post-traumatic stress, it's a very stressful environment. So my introduction to living with trauma started as a child. And because my childhood was traumatic, my parents grew up part of the greatest generation. My mom went through the Great Depression. Her dad was a violent alcoholic. All 4 of her brothers served in World War II as paratroopers. Maybe that's how I ended up being a paratrooper. I never met him, unfortunately. So that's kind of where my trauma started. I did my second trip. I'm going to take you to my second trip in Iraq. During that trip, I was over there supposed to have been for 12 months, and it ended up being 15 months because, I'm not a math guy, but when they say that we're going to do a surge and there's nobody else to serve, that means the people that are already, I would tell my guys, they're like, when are the other people? I said, bro, let me tell you what I learned in algebra. There ain't nobody else coming. They're just going to keep us over here longer. So that's essentially how we ended up, instead of 12 months, 15 months. During that time, all the enemy was starting to be pushed out of Baghdad and other places in Iraq into this area where we were located, called the Diyala province. And the Diyala province was the last stand that Al-Qaeda and these Wahhabists and all these other organizations, they're not organizations, these other terrorist elements, decided where they were going to make their last stand. And in order for us to implement national policy, we were conducting counterinsurgency operations. And when you do counterinsurgency operations, you have to live in and amongst the enemy. So my first trips, and most trips for most people, you're operating out of what we call a FOB, a forward operating base. This second time, we were not. We were living in and amongst the enemy in abandoned buildings and burning our own, like you see in the Vietnam movies, we're burning our own stuff, our own feces and the whole 9 yards. Very austere living environment. And because of that, where we were living in and amongst the enemy, we were in constant contact with the enemy. Only 3 days during that 15 months, we were not in contact with the enemy, and that's because I requested, my commander and I asked, can we bring the boys in for Christmas and give them a break? Because they finally actually started doing what I told them to do, which was wear their eye protection, that was like my arch nemesis. You give them these guys all this equipment, oh, it's hot. No kidding, dude, I'm old enough to be your dad. I know it's hot, put it on. I don't want to tell your mother you're blind because you didn't want to wear your eye protection. So we are over there and we're out there living, and we're putting a whooping on the enemy. We earned the Presidential Unit Citation, which is the highest award that you can earn in combat for valor. And I share that with you because that's how I used to tell my story. I would stand up here and quote how many Purple Hearts my unit earned, how many Silver Stars, how many Bronze Stars, and what was absent of that was the cost. And that's where the struggle for me started. I was responsible for 476 paratroopers. 22 of them were killed in action. 22 young men, some of the greatest that this nation has to offer. Many were graduates of West Point, all sorts of, you wouldn't imagine, semi-pro ball players. Like, our military is made up of some of the best people that this country has to offer. We even managed to blow up our actual physician, which was problematic, because we were outside the wire, and you're like, well, who blows up the doctor? Well, sorry. So, again, very difficult. So I got 22 that were killed in action, 86 were wounded, but it was really 111 because of those 86. Some of those young men were wounded 2 and 3 times, and they stayed in the fight. And the most difficult thing started to happen for me because I had to bury what was happening. I was responsible, my commander and I had to lead from example. So one of our responsibilities was to go to the morgue. Every time my boys were killed, he and I would be the last ones to put their awards on the body bag, deliver the final salute before they went back to Dover. So each time I would go there, it was more and more difficult for me to put this stuff in a box. These are kids, because it was a small unit, I knew these kids. And I have recently realized that I actually love them, like you would love a family member. Because of this shit that you go through, you develop a bond that is not unlike a father and a son, or a mother and a daughter, or whatever, whatever bond you want to choose, because of these experiences. So here I am losing family members in my mind, and I'm stuffing it in a box, which is exactly what I was trained to do. To do anything else, I would have failed my unit as a leader. So, as I said, the morgue was one element, and the other one was the hospital. On a good day, I'd go to the hospital. I'd have to be flown off the battlefield, my commander and I, to go. So we'd leave the battlefield and go to this hospital where everybody's looking at us like we're wild animals, because we reek, our body odor, and we're covered with all of our weapons and all this other stuff. So a good day would be I'd be in the hospital visiting somebody who lost their eye or lost a limb, and it obviously over time becomes overwhelming. And the same with the visits to the morgue. So like I said, I got through all that because that's what that's what I needed to do. That's what the taxpayers need, leaders in our military and as our first responders. Nobody wants a hyperactive paramedic or a firefighter or a police officer showing up to their house. So you keep it wired tight and you do your job. And when I came home, everything that I stuffed in a box started to leak out. I was having bouts with rage, interestingly enough, a lot of behaviors that I'd witnessed my father exhibit, I was starting to do. So I went and I asked for help, and I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, insomnia, and I'd had multiple traumatic brain injuries due to IED exposure. So all of those were pretty accurate, probably a few other diagnoses. And I asked for help. And I asked for help because I still wanted to lead people. And this is all I knew. I didn't want to give up my identity in the military. It wasn't like I actually wanted to get better. I just was like, I need this under control so I can do my job. And when you go, typically the first line of defense is medication. So I was given medication. Reluctantly, I took it. I did not want to take it. My wife is a nurse. She said, you don't take this for very long because it's probably going to do something to your brain chemistry. So I took it for a short time. I tried therapy, and I'll kind of shorten this up a little bit. Neither of those things were working for me because I couldn't even comprehend what I had experienced. So I thought it was like TV. You go and you talk to a therapist on a couch. I tell them what hurt, all this horrible stuff, and then it's out of my body. Well, no, it's resident still to this day. Obviously, you can see from my emotions. It's resident in my mind and my body. So I struggled like this for 14 years trying to get help, and nothing was really, and this is just me, I'm not bagging on therapists, I'm not bagging on pharmaceutical stuff if that's your jam, not my jam. I wanted to be strengthened, I wanted to be trained, and that's ultimately what led me to PATH. 14 years of rage, and professionally I was going to work and I was doing my job, and a lot of the first responders, they got to kit up, they go out, they do their job, and when they get home, things are different. And it's the same in a lot of professions. My wife is an emergency room nurse. It's no different. She doesn't necessarily, well, I would say she's actually been in hand-to-hand combat in an emergency department, so it's a pretty good similarity. So I was living this way where I was experiencing extreme bouts of rage at home, not out in public. Obviously, I wanted to keep a job. Not sleeping for days on end. That resulted in chronic pain, so my body was in excruciating pain all the time. And then these horrible episodes of sadness on the anniversaries of these deaths. I would just be taken over with emotions, and nothing that I was trying was working. So there, enter Warrior Path. In 2020, I went to the very first Warrior Path program that was provided by the Travis Mills Foundation. And at that time, I was introduced to post-traumatic growth. And essentially, I learned that whatever didn't kill me was going to make me stronger. Everything that I learned from my father is what led me to be able to function in combat. Everything that I did in combat was what I was taught as a child and taught throughout the military, but it was no longer serving me in my day-to-day life. Just because my dog drops his bone on my toe, it's not the same thing as I'm in the middle of a firefight. But my body didn't know the difference. So what I learned at PATH was that there was a lot of other people out there just like me. I thought I was broken, and I thought I was going to live a diminished version of myself because nothing else. It's very difficult when you go to a professional and you walk out and you're just as jacked up as you were when you went in. So you couldn't possibly be the professional's fault. I must be broken. And then also throughout these times, there was a lot of turnover with mental health providers, so I must have told my story I don't know how many times, and there really wasn't any forward progress. So again, at PATH was different. I understood why I felt the way I did, why I behaved the way I did. It's essentially, I was doing exactly what I was trained. There was nothing wrong with me. There still isn't anything wrong with me. There never was. I was doing what I was trained to do, except the environment changed. I wasn't on the battlefield. I was in the Hannaford grocery store, but I still noticed when someone's carrying or all these different things that might make me feel uncomfortable. And PATH also taught me wellness and regulation practices, which is what you had talked about a little bit earlier with post-traumatic growth, is that in order for us to grow, we have to be able to regulate my nervous system changed. It changed the first time I jumped out of an airplane. It changed the first time I was in a firefight, the first time I saw people get wounded, and it continued to change. It changed when I was a child, in the house that I grew up in. So what this program does is it teaches us that there's nothing wrong with any of the people that are there. We simply need to start to learn different skills so that we can live our life to our fullest potential, which kind of leads me to why I'm a PATH guy. I had lost my sense of purpose when I left the military. And I got a job, and I made money, and I wore a suit to work, and I was working for a Fortune 500 company, and I was miserable. I was in the handicap stall crying about the only time I was happy was payday and the day after. And after that, I was miserable. And it's because I wasn't doing what I was made. I was put on the earth to help other people. Like 90% of the population we serve, you don't become a cop because you want to get rich. You don't become a firefighter because you want, Our populations all have a strong innate sense of service. And what we do at PATH is remind them of that, and we help people once they're able to start to take care of themselves, then they can go out and serve others, which is essentially what we do at Warrior PATH. Once this person's ready and they've taken whatever wellness practices they need, they start to experience post-traumatic growth, then they can go out, and what we task them to do is when you're ready, you start helping the other people around you. I found that I can talk to, I don't have any kids, so I always looked at them like leprechauns. I was like, I don't know how to talk to them. So, and that's kind of how I was raised. Like my parents, like, why are these children in the house? Well, I don't know, you gotta look that up in a book, an encyclopedia. So, I've changed completely. I can talk to a young kid who's going through the struggle of a divorce. People come up to me in the grocery store, you're easy to talk to them. If you knew me when I was a command sergeant major, I was like a blowtorch. If someone came in my office, they were leaving there in some sort of psychological trauma was going to probably be inflicted on them or physical trauma. So, that's kind of the testament to what Warrior PATH can do, and I'll just share a few anecdotes with you about some of the things that I've had. People have come up to me after they've been through that course, and they show up, and you would never see this. A law enforcement officer from Massachusetts, jacked, ripped, all put together, well-spoken, sits down when we all start talking, and he says, 2 nights a week I'm in my cruiser with a pistol in my mouth. There are people all around us that are struggling, and I didn't know that because I was too self-absorbed with my own struggles. And when you realize that, you want to be able to help them, and that's kind of what we do. So some data to support the effectiveness of PATH. What our students say on surveys, and they're anonymous surveys, there's no reason for them to not tell the truth. What they report is 60% sustained reduction in PTSD symptoms, 61% sustained reduction in depression, 54% sustained reduction in anxiety, 50% sustained reduction in stress. So I can stand here and I can tell you from students, we're saving people's lives. These people that have a predisposition to want to kill themselves are getting the help that they need and the training so that they don't leave families and other loved ones behind. What I didn't tell you about my unit, 22 of those people that were killed, since we've come home, 5 more have killed themselves. So what I believe PATH is doing is it's an intervention to stop generational trauma. So does anybody have any questions about any of the stuff that I just kind of went through in PATH? And I didn't mean to kind of get into the weeds on my personal story, but it's the best way for you to understand what we do at PATH. I wouldn't have stood up in front of you and had this conversation a few years ago. Even though I used to speak, I've spoken to the Secretary of Defense, I've spoken to high level government officials, but during my struggle with post-traumatic stress, I isolated. I stayed in my home because I didn't have the skill set to be able to grow out of that. So does anybody have any questions at all about what we do? Or I know I didn't tell you the specifics of what we do in the program because I think it's something that needs to be actually experienced.
Right, what's the best way to connect with PATH?
So you can apply online. You go to the Travis Mills Foundation, and when you go there, there'll be a drop down for Warrior Path. Now, the thing is if you know somebody and they're local, what we would ask is that you contact us directly because PATH now is given at 10 different locations across the United States, and we like to pull the applications for our local folks so that they can come here to our program up the road at the Travis Mills Foundation. So they can apply, but just let us know. And then, like as an example, I told you of those guys that I was with in Iraq for 15 months. 15 of them have come through, and so, all the way up from junior soldiers all the way up to full bird colonels have come through our program. So we've also had letter agency people come through from the government. So we have kind of become the place where a lot of the first responders come because we take more than some of the other places. And obviously, we want to have people from the local area come in here. And usually that's how it's done geographically. But if there's any question whether we want a person to come up to our program, then we can make that happen. Anything else?
Thank you so much.
The other thing I didn't mention is the other programs that we have also, and I was going to have Justin quickly.
I was going to invite him to come to the podium if he so desired. Justin.
Good afternoon, I'm Justin.
Hi.
I'm Justin Crockett. I'm the development director for the Travis Mills Foundation. I'm also a retired Air Force Chief Master Sergeant. I did 22 years in the Air Force. I'm originally from Maine. I've been homesick every second of that 22 years. It's really good to be home. I came back in 2022 and I accidentally bought my house 1.9 miles down the road from the Travis Mills Foundation. So when I was going through my closing, my sister said, that's right next to the Travis Mills Foundation. I was like, who's that guy? And I had no idea who he was. When you're active duty, you're not necessarily following along with all the wounded hero stories. You're still in the mission, still in the fight. But April 10th, 2012, Travis Mills was blown up by an IED in Afghanistan. Travis's, we call that his Alive Day. It's also my wedding anniversary, so tragedy struck us both on that day. He's adapted way better to his tragedy than I have to mine. Just ask her. But, he became one of 5 quadruple amputees from that. He's got no arms and no legs. So 4 days after, and it's this weekend, his birthday is tomorrow, so April 10th, just a few days ago, we had his Alive Day celebration. On his birthday, 4 days later, he woke up in Landstuhl, Germany, with nobody from his family in there except for his brother-in-law, who happened to be a medic in the same unit. And his brother-in-law had to tell him that you have no arms and no legs. A 26-year-old, 6'4", 250-pound man laying in a hospital bed with no arms and no legs, what does that future look like when you're that age? And you've got a wife and a 6-month-old kid. So he did his time in Walter Reed, and as soon as they got prosthetics on this dude, he was up and running. And he was also running around that hospital mentoring every other wounded service member in there, letting them know, because it doesn't get much worse than having no arms and no legs. And he's just letting them know that, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too. And so he wanted to give back. He got Tunnels to Towers and Gary Sinise Foundation built him a house in Maine. He's not originally from Maine. A lot of people think Travis is from Maine. He's actually from Michigan. His wife's from Maine. Is why he came back here for the temperate climate. His blood, his blood only circulates in his trunk. He doesn't have arms and legs for it to get cool, so his body gets real hot. So Texas and Florida don't really agree with it. So he needed to live up here, and she had family and a support system here, so that's why they chose here. When he got out of Walter Reed, he decided he wanted to give back because of all the things that Gary Sinise Foundation and Tunnels to Towers have done for him. He went on trips and excursions with his wife. He could take her with him as a non-medical attendant, but he couldn't bring his kids. And I spent 7.5 years away from my wife and kids during my military career. Being around my family is definitely the most important thing to me. It's the only thing that gets me through the hard days. And I know that's it for him too. So he wanted a place where these guys can go. I believe the colonel said it earlier that, there's no place where these combat vets, these critically wounded guys can go and feel themselves. You can't take your family to Disneyland. Getting on a plane's pain when you got a wheelchair strapped to your butt. And then you can't help your wife with the baggage or your spouse with the baggage to get through the airport. Those are all barriers to these guys getting out there and getting after it and doing things that they enjoy. So Travis found the Elizabeth Arden estate in 2015. Elizabeth Arden was a cosmetics pioneer in the 40s, huge estate up in Mount Vernon, Maine. And he decided he wanted to build a place where these service members could bring their families and relax. And in 2017, after about $2 million of rehab of the Elizabeth Arden estate, he opened the Travis Mills Foundation. In 2021, we built a health and wellness center, a 10,000 square foot gymnasium with an indoor pool because it decides to snow in April in Maine, and it's not always nice to be in the lake. So we have to have somewhere where they can get in and recreate indoors. We serve veterans from 47 states around the country so far. We run our flagship program, because of Travis and his experience with his wife and kids, is our family program. It's all about the family. The vet comes and they get some of their independence back because everything is set up and adapted for them. All the sports, all the activities, everything is adapted for the wounded service member. And then you see the stress just lift off the caregiver and the spouse, because all of a sudden the vet isn't the cranky son of a gun that they may be back home and that they have their independence. The spouse doesn't have to wait on them hand and foot. So you see that stress relief. You also see the kids being kids and running around with other military kids. I was standing in the kitchen last summer, and this 2-year-old boy, his dad was a double-leg amputee. The boy was born after his dad's injury, so he knows no different, other than his dad has no legs. But as soon as another vet came into the kitchen, the little boy looked at the vet and said, "You have no legs, just like my dad." And that's so important for these kids to see other parents like theirs. Last summer I was down on the dock when there was a bunch of vets swimming in the water, and there was a 7 or 8-year-old boy on the dock. And vets, when they get in the water, they take their prosthetics off. Obviously, they're heavy; they make them sink. And so the dock looks like a masochist Lego set with just body parts and limbs all over it. And this father yells to his son, he's like, "Hey son, toss me my arm." And the boy goes, "Which one?" These are the types of things that we see and the healing that we see at the Travis Mills Foundation. It's all expense paid. We pay for everything. We fly them in. Every meal is included. Lodging is included. We pick them to them up from the airport. It takes about 110 volunteers a week to run the Travis Mills Foundation. So if you have some time and you want to become one of our volunteers, please go visit our website and check that out. So that's our main programs, our family program. We also do Warrior Path, which allows me to roll around. It's every colonel's nightmare, 2 E9s rolling around in the same car together. We get in a lot of trouble together, but Ray and I have a good time. And we have Warrior Path. We also do caregivers. So we have whole weeks where we bring nothing but caregivers out. and they get to sit around, and it's mostly the wives, but we also do, if we get enough male caregivers, we do a male caregiver week. And they get to come out and share those stories and experiences and resources and how their vet's doing and what care they're receiving, and just swap those war stories and realize that there's somebody else that's in the same position. Once you've been introduced to the Travis Mills Foundation, you don't get voted off the island. You're always a part of our family, so it's not just a one and done family vacation. A lot of times they come out and they experience what we do and what we have to offer, and then we try to get that to them at home. We have what's called the Recalibrate program. Travis doesn't like the term, no offense, wounded warrior, because he's not wounded, he's healed. He coined the term recalibrated because he's a recalibrated veteran. He's adapting to his new normal. So we named our program after that. And so if they come out to the retreat and their family with the vet's wounds, they really enjoy kayaking, we'll buy the entire family kayaks and send them to them so that they could do that activity at home. We bought tonals for their home gyms because they're streamlined and they're smaller, and it doesn't take up a whole lot of room, and they have adaptive contraptions so that these guys can get a workout and not have to go to Gold's Gym or 24 Fitness and have people look at them when they take the prosthetics off and put on the different utility prosthetics to work out. So we're really excited right now. We're the New England hub for the Warrior Path program. So if they're in New England, they're gonna come and go through Ray's program. But we also just purchased the property next door to the retreat, which is a 8 unit apartment building that we are going to be able to run and double our throughput of our Warrior Path program, and in concert double our throughput through our family program because of that new purchase. So we're not going away anytime soon. We're ramping it up, and we're going to take care of as many vets as possible. It's a wonderful thing. It's right here in Maine, and I'd love to have you guys come up sometime for a tour. I'll leave some cards out here on the front, but you can't just take my word for it. You got to see it to know what we actually do. Thank you.
Well, Justin and Ray, thank you. I'm not military trained, so I choke up a little easier. And, with every presentation, I'm just a little bit choked up here. But it is so good today to see what's available and what you all are doing, Colonel Boyle, and what you're going to tell us in just a couple of minutes, Ellie. I'm happy to introduce. You know, the human spirit is incredible, isn't it? You know, I've seen Travis speak, and man, I mean, it's just, if anybody in the room hasn't seen Travis Mills talk, it is one of the most inspirational things that you will probably.
It's post-traumatic growth in action. He's a good example of what that looks like.
You betcha. You know, you talk about a guy that turned it around completely.
Absolutely.
So Allie Hughes. Allie has worked with active duty service members and veterans for the past 7 years. She has a background in mental health counseling and art therapy. Since 2019, Allie has worked at Neuro Rehab Management as a case manager to support veterans enrolled in the Wounded Warrior, I'm going to say that here, the Wounded Warrior Project's Independence Program. This one-of-a-kind program focuses on helping you set achievable goals, get more active in your community, and embrace the future of your terms. Allie, podium is yours.
Thank you so much. So my name again is Allie Hughes, and here with me is Whitney Moore, the president of Neuro Rehab Management, or NRM. NRM is a case management company. We're based out of Woburn, Massachusetts, so about 20 minutes or so outside of Boston. For over 30 years, we have provided case management services and community support services for individuals living with brain injury and other neurological illness. Around 2016, we began our partnership with the Wounded Warrior Project's Independence Program. The Independence Program supports post-9/11 veterans living with brain injury spinal cord injury, and other neurological conditions. The aim and focus of the program is really to help veterans identify community supports where they live and help connect them and find funding for that. The focus of what we do is really to enhance or preserve independence or support with community integration and connection to different community programs. The Independence Program has 3 core services: case management, CSS services or community support services, and funding for alternative therapies. Everyone that comes into the Independence Program is assigned a case manager such as myself. And we are the point person for all things IP and looking for different services. The primary role of the case manager is, again, to really look at where the veteran lives and what are the resources in their community. How can we connect them, and then how can either we or how can we find other entities to help fund so that they can participate in these services. Community support services is a service that's provided in which we identify a community partner or a CSS where the veteran lives, and they provide functional skills training. And this could be anything from helping someone with physical health and wellness goals. Maybe they want to enhance their household management and their contributions within the family. Maybe they want to find opportunities out in the community to connect and build a social network but don't know where to start. And so they can really help work one-on-one to set up these services and work towards the goals. CSS services is very goal-oriented. Right? We're looking at what does the veteran want to do with their time, what's important to them, and what steps can we do to help get them there. The last core service that we offer is funding for alternative services. These may be services that are partially funded or maybe not at all funded, but we know how important the alternative services are to the mental and emotional well-being and overall quality of life. So some of the most common services that we coordinate and set up: music therapy, art therapy, equine therapy, acupuncture, and yoga. If someone is interested in participating in the Independence Program, all they have to do is reach out to Wounded Warrior Project's Resource Center and ask to be connected and to learn more about the program. Once it's determined that the program could be a good fit, then a case manager such as myself flies out to wherever the veteran is located in the U.S. The program is open to veterans in all 50 states. We conduct a 1 to 2 day in-home assessment, and it really is comprehensive. It goes over their background, their upbringing, their time in the service, their experience separating or retiring from the service, as well as taking a really deep dive and a look into what past treatments and supports they received for their physical needs, their cognitive needs, their emotional, behavioral. We spend a lot of time looking at what are your interests, what are the avocational interests that you have, what do you want to get involved with, and how we can connect you. The assessment process is really involved, but that's in part because as a case manager, we want to know who the veteran is as a person, and not only where they're coming from, where they've been, but where they want to go, and how we can take the Independence Program, the services they offer, fill in some of the gaps and help support them in that direction. Now, the most important part of all of this is what is the impact? Why is this service helpful? And the best way to do that is to share some of the experiences that I've seen and that I've witnessed. About 2 years ago, I was working with someone, a veteran, who was on the verge of homelessness. He was really struggling with mental health and really wasn't even able to engage in any of the services, the CSS, the alternative therapies that we offer, because he was so concentrated on where am I going to live, but unable to kind of identify what steps do I need to identify housing or secure housing. So we were really able to kind of take a step back, meet him where he was, and come up with a really detailed plan of what are your options, what can you do, what can you do on your own, and what can I help you with and ensure that you're following through on these things. Fast forward 2 years later, he now has secure housing. And he's able to participate not only with CSS services to help him, kind of organize and support his cognitive needs, but he's participating in alternative services to address his physical health and wellness, which is also improving his emotional wellness. In January, I recently went out on maternity leave, and I told him, when I come back, I'm going to call and see how you're doing. And when I called, he said, Allie, this is the happiest I've been in 5 years. And what more do you want to hear from someone that you're working with? That they are happy. Another experience from a caregiver's perspective. I have someone that I work with who has a severe traumatic brain injury. His weeks are filled with medical appointments every single day, multiple times. But he also has a very big interest in adaptive sports and connecting with his peers, which is fantastic. But his mom works full time. And so if they have to choose, they're going to be taking him to these medical appointments and not these other activities like the adaptive cycling, the veteran groups that really bring meaning and joy. So what we did was we identified a community support specialist in his town that he can work one-on-one. This community support specialist meets with him 3 times a week, and they're able to not only go to the medical appointments, but also attend the different adaptive programs and supports out in the community. I was talking to his mom a few weeks ago, and she said, without CSS services, he would not be able to participate in 90% of the activities that he's doing. What kind of quality of life would he have? And that the service, that it's there for him, it's routine, they can count on it, not only supports him, but is supporting his caregiver and providing a level of respite needed. With that, does anyone have any questions? No?
Well, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Allie. Again, for me, it's so fascinating to see the plethora, really, the whole bunch of programs that are out there that are available if our men and women just took advantage of them. And I think that's perhaps, at least in my experience, with people, one of the sorry, as I'm shuffling here, one of the major problems is that folks just don't take advantage of, or don't know about, or are afraid to take advantage of some of those things. At any rate, thank you for segueing me into our next couple of speakers. And in general, in your own communities, there are people like Holly and Tom who are here. Holly and Tom, by the way, are partners as well. And just happen to be our yoga and acupuncturist. As a veterinary acupuncturist, I don't get to do some of the stuff they do, but that's okay. Well, Holly, our next speaker, is a personal trainer, yoga instructor who is also a level 3 Reiki master, as am I and my wife. She has a background in nursing as well as human resources and veterinary support staff, which is extremely important as a veterinarian. She's run the gamut from people to animals, and now for the last 10 years she's been working especially with people. She's been practicing Reiki for 20 years and has worked in the fitness industry for the past 10 years. She will share the benefits of regular yoga and or meditation practice, the benefits of exercise, even without going to the gym, and how Reiki can all be valuable tools in helping you to navigate the stress in day-to-day life. Holly Brooks.
Any favors, yes. So when I was 40 and giving my age away now, so 14 years ago, decided that was not the person I wanted to be, and that was not the way I was going to live my life. I could barely move. I was in so much pain and miserable, and wasn't doing any help to my kids being that way either. So decided, all right, I'm gonna get my stuff together and figure it out. And I ended up loving it so much that I decided to make it my career. I guess the biggest thing, I have all my notes here, and I have like a plan, but honestly, if I was to say to all of you, and I see all the various ages here, don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid. Find yourself an instructor, someone that you connect with, if that's truly something that you want to do, to change your life, to change who you are, because you're gonna come to it for the physical reasons first. We always come, I came to yoga for physical reasons. I was running hardcore, my hips were hurting, and I thought, I gotta do something a little more gentle here. Whew, getting older, this is not feeling good. So, came to yoga, had that moment, literally the first day on my mat, the first class I ever took, had that epiphany of, oh my God, I'm crying, I'm bawling, like, this is what I was meant to do. I finally figured myself out in my early 40s. Partly, anyway. And so it's so important to not be afraid of it and to take that moment. I teach yoga to people in wheelchairs. I teach yoga to people with prosthetics. I teach to people who are in their 80s. One of my students is in her early 80s. She's a Cold War veteran with gunshot wounds and shrapnel still in her body. And she's freaking amazing. And she was terrified to come to yoga, absolutely terrified. She's like, I'm 82 years old, what am I gonna do? We're gonna start at the beginning. We're just gonna take it slow, you're gonna start step by step. I worked with Michael for several years. I absolutely adored him, and I can see so much change. If any of y'all had known Michael, I know you did a few years ago, completely new man. I'm so proud of him. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to know you and to be able to share this. And Michael came into it with an open mind. That's the only other thing you need to do. Be willing, be open to do it. And if it scares you, just keep going, little bit by little bit. And there's oftentimes you come into a yoga class, and I know a lot of people say, well, that's just a bunch of women in stretchy pants. It can be, but a lot of my classes are not. I have a lot of veterans in the gym that I work at in Kennebunk. I have a lot of veterans that come in. I had one yesterday that I did a meditation with, and I had 20 people in my class. I did a meditation on positivity and setting intentions. And part of it, one of the phrases, kind of innocuous to me because I guess I do it every day, and I love what I do. I hate to say that it becomes memory, but I start to come into teacher brain, and I'm just guiding, and my job is to make sure everyone is healthy and happy, and that I'm not seeing stress. I'm not seeing someone having a trigger or something like that. So I'm always kind of scanning as I'm talking. And one of my phrases was to welcome what arises, whether it is anger, fear, irritation, sadness, depression, joy, whatever it is, and to say, I see you, I hear you, and I welcome you. And after class, I didn't think much of it. It was a woman that came to me, and she was like, I did not realize how pissed I was. And I said, okay, well that's great. She's like, no, you have no idea. This really was great. And I cried, and I was pissed, and I never heard a peep. She did it all in the quiet. But as an instructor, as a human being, those are the moments that give me so much joy. When someone can have that moment where they can release and they can be in that moment, that is brilliant. And so on the other side of what you all do, you facilitate the programs and make it all happen. I'm the one that's in there with you going, oh, okay, great, let's cry through this, let's keep going. Or on the other hand, you're lifting with me and I'm pushing you to be as hard and strong as you can be in that moment. All of those pieces make you that whole being. And so what my look on it as the person that is sitting with you when you're doing the yoga, when you're doing the meditation, or if I'm doing a Reiki session with somebody, that I'm the conduit, I'm the facilitator, the conduit of what's happening with you, holding the space with you, but you're doing all the hard work. And to allow that to come through is a really big gift for me to be able to be there present with it. But it doesn't happen without your courage and your strength and your willingness to do it. So anybody in this room, if you don't participate in physical fitness, if you are nervous about it, or you say, oh no, that's not for me, don't buy that. Don't tell yourself, don't underestimate yourself. Give it a shot. Find someone. If that means you go through 10 instructors before you find the one you click with, go through 10 instructors. Find that person that jives with you, that really makes it fun for you, that really taps into what you want. I know I'm not the instructor for everybody. I know my personality is not for everybody. It just happens to work for Michael and Morgan, but and Claire and Judy. But I recognize that I might not be that teacher for you. You might need someone who's super serious and really, really into it. I lend a little bit of my personality, and that comes to trying to bring a little bit of humor into it too. But I want you to enjoy it. The biggest piece is you have to enjoy it, So find that person that you jive with. I'm in the Kennebunk area. I'm always welcome to talk. I'm happy to talk to any of you if you're interested to come to see me at the facility that I work at. I don't do as many private lessons anymore because I've just gotten so busy at my gym that I work with right now that I just hasn't afforded me the time to do as many private lessons and things like that. So, but I'm happy to connect you with someone I might know in your area. Feel free, again, use me as the conduit to get you where you want to be. If there's something I can do to help you and find someone, I'm happy to facilitate that. That is my pleasure. I'm always happy to do that. I totally didn't come into my notes at all. I was really so prepared and I wrote on them and everything. But really what it does in a nutshell, how yoga, how meditation, even how Reiki is going to help you is to help you tune into those emotions, tune into that memory, tune into that thought, and let it come through without judgment, without being critical of yourself, without being mean to yourself, and just say, okay, I see you. All right, I'm feeling this. How am I going to move through it today? I know I can't absolve anyone of their stuff, no more than anyone can take my stuff for me. I have to figure out how to live with it and how to move through it. But yoga helps you to do that. Typically we come into, like I said, to the physical asana. You're holding a pose and you're in your warrior stance and you're in it, and all of a sudden your brain's going ping, oh, did I do this? Or, oh, I remember that. Often in the poses that I'm going to offer in a class, it's going to make you challenged to the point that you can't think of anything else. And then over time, the breathing part comes in. It's all, you don't have to come into a class and think, I have to breathe deep, I have to know all the poses, I have to be able to clear my mind and stop my mind. Yes, not even anywhere near what's going to happen in a class. That the yoga and the meditation allow you to kind of tune into the mind chatter and go, okay, all right, what am I going to do with this? It's here. I can't stop it, but I can learn how to integrate it. I can learn how to, as Travis said, recalibrate. And how am I going to make this work for me? As opposed to being a prisoner to it and having it own me all the time and coloring every situation. Like you said, you can't be in Walmart and have something trigger you. It helps you to learn how to deal with that. If I can breathe through it, if I can count the breath, if I can pause for a moment, all of those little pieces come into play. But I know that living with a Vietnam veteran, there are times a helicopter would fly by and all of a sudden I was in a closet and I didn't know what had happened to me. My father picked me, my sister, and my mother up. Whoop, you were in the closet and you didn't even know where the hell you were. Like, what just happened? Something flew by, but that was how I grew up. That was my life on a pretty regular basis where we lived. And the other piece of that was the only time that my dad showed any bit of his PTSD. He chose to stuff it, and the rage was incredible. It was quite something to see sometimes. He's been gone now for 11 years, but we can laugh about it. We used to laugh about it when he was alive too. Like at some point we're like, okay, I know you're not going to talk to me about it, but holy cow, what was that? But it colored his life, and I wish that for him that he had found a way to talk about it, whether it was with friends or veterans or whatever. He just chose to stuff it. So it was very violent at my house growing up. So for me, I know that's what the big draw to yoga is for me. I typically, again, like everyone else, came to it for the physical reasons, but I'm out the end of this 14 years later with the mental aspect. That is the best piece. That's the thing that I crave for my practice every single day, is the mental space. And meditation doesn't have to be this, and you're sitting and you're breathing. It can be sipping your cup of coffee. And you're just, that's my meditation in the morning, is sipping my coffee in the quiet. I have that time to regroup, get ready for the day. Some of you, it might be digging in your garden. That's meditation. It doesn't have to be that traditional sitting on your meditation cushion with the Ganesh mudra and oming for an hour. That's great. If you can do it, that's great. But every little thing, don't underestimate what you do in your day-to-day lives that is meditative. If it brings you joy, if it helps you find that place of calm, keep doing it. And don't be afraid to do anything else that excites you, you might feel inspired by. Go check it out. In your local areas, or again, feel free to tap into me. I'm happy to set you up with someone I know. I've met a lot of teachers from across our state and several from around the country, so I'm happy to hook you up with someone if I can be of any help. So thank you for letting me come up here and blather. I appreciate it, and I hope to talk to you all soon. Thank you so much.
Tom St. Amand has been doing this for a number of things, working with veterans for a number of years, both primarily and otherwise. He owns and operates the Family Acupuncture Center in Kennebunk since the year 2000, when he earned his master's degree from the first and oldest acupuncture school in the country. After completing the 36-month program in Chinese, Japanese, and herbal medicine, which is extensive, I can tell you, he spent 13 months studying orthopedic acupuncture. His first clinical experience 25 years ago was spent working with recovering addicts, abuse victims, and patients suffering from post-traumatic stress. Tom, the podium is yours, my friend.
First of all, I'm going to say that's mean, putting me up after all these people. Usually I'm the opening act, everyone looks better. Okay, so put me on the spot.
Lord, are you getting a needle out over there?
Yeah, I'm getting nervous. I'm going to show. Okay, so a lot of people right out of the gate, they're hesitant to come visit me. They're sure I'm using knitting needles. Okay, those are vicious rumors, and I want to show you. It's 1/24th, and I'm going to have clear. I'm going to point and clear. I'm going to walk around and show you. Okay, you can't see it. It's 1/24th, the size of a needle you see in a hospital. Okay, it's like a hair. It's like a filament in a light bulb. Surgical stainless steel. One use becomes medical waste. Okay, so. Here. Gotcha. It came out because you moved. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, did it? Oh, good.
We're going to practice this before we go on the road.
Yeah, right. Oh, did it come out?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't feel that. And you don't. You may feel a little duck or something, but,
Yeah.
and Tom is so good.
You show it.
Tom is so good.
Okay, so
I have a radio signal.
honestly, this is a lot to follow here. I came in with what I tell a lot of people when I talk, but it really made me think. It's like Holly. I had a plan in my head, but starting to listen. So many things I want to touch on. But I'll make it quick. I'm a good Frenchman. I could talk all day. First of all, the body, mind, and spirit you spoke about. In Chinese medicine, you got to feel good all around. It's not just how you're doing physically. I had a classmate whose dad was a very successful surgeon, but he had blistering migraines. Every day he'd have a patient in one room while he was throwing up in the next one. So they saw he's a success. Look at it. He's making money. He's fixing people. He wasn't healthy. You got to feel good everywhere, I guess, to meet your potential, okay? You talked about recalibration. I mention this all the time. This is the language I use because, okay, let's face it, where's Mike? We're not all built like Mike, okay? But you look at yourself in the mirror, you're a work of art, okay? You're a work of genius. This is the most amazing thing you're ever going to own. We're very resilient. At the same time, we're very finely tuned. Okay, if you're off just a little bit, very quickly, something can get away from you, starts to spiral, and I'll remind you, one snowflake started the avalanche. Okay? So having said that, I tell people, we've got the capacity to come back. I mean, sometimes you have to go Western medicine, you have to go, very severe modalities to get you back where you need to be. But so many times your body knows how, you just got stuck. It's like the record is skipping, okay? So what I say, I want to get you back to your original factory settings, okay? Your body remembers everything that's ever happened. I get guys in my office, late 70s, that I'm treating them for a high school football injury. And a lot of them have the epiphany while we're talking. They go, oh my God, I remember the hit. Well, think about the injuries you've all had. Your body remembers every one of them. My dad was on a destroyer in Normandy, the USS Ellison. And he would talk about things, and it was a great line. Courage is just being the only one who knows how scared you really are. And he said, times came, I think there was one stretch, 13 months they didn't get off the ship. And he says, the next time they engage the enemy, he says, there were times that you said, oh, just let it over. I'm so tired of being afraid. And so, having said that, we got the capacity to come back to it. So in Chinese medicine, this is what we're doing. We're kind of reminding you what normal felt like, okay? Giving you a little nudge in the right direction. And the body goes, oh, I remember the way. Oh, I know the shortcut here. Having said that, my first two engagements, I've been out for 24 years now.
with veterans. They're both paratroopers. I had no idea how fast you guys come down.
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Car wreck.
I had no idea. The first one, he landed in a tree. He was okay. It's when he fell from the tree, broke his back. And they repaired him, but he was in pain for 30 years. At the end of his career, he worked for the post office. He was ready to stop and couldn't get into togas fast enough. And so he called me. We started working on him. 5 visits. We took care of the back pain, and we weaned him off his OxyContin without any of the side effects. When he finally went to togas, he said, I'm going to acupuncture. I said, keep going, we'll take care of it. My second one was invasion of Panama. They were supposed to land in water. They landed in the parking lot and shattered his leg, hurt his back. The guy next to him didn't make it. And this poor guy, he had just anger. And I'm a big believer, the dog that bites is the one that's afraid. He was like a dump truck full of muscles, the way he was put together. And he wasn't who he always remembered. And I remember I treated his wife too, and it was more helpful for her, I think. But this is the stuff we get. People will come in and they think back pain, migraine. No, I'm treating people for, like I said, post-traumatic stress. I'm treating term breech babies. I think I'm 23 of 25 now for infertility, frozen shoulders, kids with ADHD. People don't realize acupuncture is a whole healthcare system. It's the oldest continuous healthcare system in the world. The oldest writings we have, the Wang Di Neijing, the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Difficulties, it's 3,400 years old, okay? What I love about it is it's tailored for you precisely. It's not cookie cutter. I get 6 people coming in with migraines. I'm not treating all of them exactly the same way because it manifests differently. Somebody might be occipital, or one-sided, or they feel like their head's in a vice. It moves around. It means something to us. What makes it better? What makes it worse? I get some people, they're like the mule in the field. They know 2 days before everybody the rain is coming. Okay, so this all means something, and this is from thousands of years of observation. Something else I wanted to mention here, the recalibration. Yeah, okay, I got those things I want to do. So, I guess where I'm going with this, I'm a sucker for simple. Okay, so you all got your little rings. Okay, some of the most powerful points on the body are on the hands and feet, especially the fingers and toes. Okay, so I've given away 1,000 of these. Patients love them. And what you do, you just run it up and down. You'll do all 10 fingers in 2 minutes. Okay, real quick. Your fingers are just kind of light and floaty and ticklish and tingling. You can do the toes too. It's a whole different sensation. Get ready. Okay? But you do this, and I've passed these out. It's great for my patients with arthritis. I've got patients with Raynaud's syndrome. It helps. I've got professional musicians come to see me. It helps with the dexterity when they're playing. But the thing that's really nice, it's got a little bit of a meditative component. You just do this absent-mindedly. You know, you're looking at the paper, you're looking at the computer, just laying in bed reading. Do it. And it brings you back to the moment. Every year I speak to the seniors here at the high school in Wells, and because they can't stop. I go to talk to them about acupuncture for relaxation, and those kids, they're plugged in all the time, they're moving. I pass these out, I do my demo, I stick a few needles in the teacher. By the end of the hour, those kids are stoned. They did one thing for an hour, okay? So make this, people like stuff that's free. Make this your new best friend. Keep it by the bedside. Do this now and then. It's got a nice component to it. I guess that's the biggest thing. We're finally getting legitimacy for what we're doing. When I got out of school 24 years ago, a lot of doctors, they'd snicker, they'd sneer, they'd placebo, and Well, in 1994, the National Institute of Health, kicking and screaming, finally put aside $2 million from their $15 billion budget to look into alternative medicine. 3 years later, they start coming back with results from their first research, and they found right away it's fantastic. Side effects of chemotherapy and radiation, post-operative dental pain, morning sickness, and they're bringing more and more. Actually, a couple years ago, the American Society of Anesthesiology did research with the VA, and they showed if you have acupuncture before surgery, you come through recovery faster, you need less painkiller after the fact, you're more lucid. I've got patients, historically, terrible migraines or nausea and vomiting because of the anesthesia. I'll do these 5 ear points ahead of time, like 3 days before the surgery. They come to, they're clear-eyed, they feel good. One woman, she always has terrible nausea and vomiting. They said, "Why are you feeling?" She goes, "Oh, I'm famished." They go, "Nobody's hungry in here." So there's something to it. It comes back to, this is the most amazing thing you're ever going to own. Geez, take care of it now. It's going to be there when you're 87 and a half. But if you need help along the way, this is where you call me, okay? Yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing right there. It's use little things like this, and I guess those are the points I want to make. You know, you throw me off my game by putting these guys in front of me. I was like, I can't just go cookie cutter. So anyway, yeah, it's that's what I was going to say. One more thing. The training I had for orthopedic or sports acupuncture, one of my teachers is the team acupuncturist for the Bruins. Used to be for the.
I got my attention.
Yeah, used to be for the Patriots. And he says, you look at those guys. And he says, you figure, you know, we're getting that legitimacy now. But he said, you look at them, you figure they're like concrete. No, concrete shatters. They can't hit again and again. We pull bodies off the field after every play. Those guys, it's all about flexibility now. They're doing stretching drills, they're doing speed drills, they're doing balance drills. And now they get hit, they don't just boom, they go with it. So I tell people, your mantra now should be more like the willow, less like the oak. Okay, a storm comes through town, willows define, all the oaks are on the ground. So anyway, there's my 2.5 cents, okay? I'll cut it short. So thank you so much for putting up with me.
Thank you so much. You know, does this stuff really work, right? You know, it's been around for, as he mentioned, the Nishing Suen, which is a book published, you know.
I've always found it wise not to argue with the guy with the needle.
Yeah. You know, and they speak sort of just offhandedly about acupuncture, and you're right, and you're right, I've read that. You know, it's an amazing text. And does this stuff work? I work with animals. There's no placebo effect with animals, and it's astonishing. It's astonishing. Michael can tell you, you know.
They don't tell you how they're feeling either.
Well, you got to listen the right way.
So in China, the old doctors don't even talk to you. They look at your face, they look at your tongue, they feel your pulse, they do a treatment. They say, don't trust what the patient tells you, trust what the patient's body tells you. You got to take the time to notice.
That's right. No, that's so right. Tongue and pulse diagnosis was huge. As Dr. Shea, my guru, said at one time, if they had had MRIs, they probably would have used them, but thank God they didn't, because they developed an amazing system that works repeatedly. I had a specialist at Scarborough who we were treating the client's animal and the specialist. They were going back and forth to specialists because of a major problem, and the specialist said, I don't know what he's doing up down there in Wells, but help him keep doing it. So anyhow, there's an awareness now. Anyhow, that's part of my point. There's an awareness of just how powerful these modalities are, and we can all take advantage of them, and they don't hurt. Well, usually.
Depends on my mood.
Yes. At any rate, so for our last speaker of the day, one thought just before I introduce Michael. You know, healing, as we've heard, is about mind, body, and spirit, and all of those things come together in appropriate treatments. So the modalities that we've talked about come together so beautifully, so powerful. Anyway, Michael Cataldi, who sometimes admits to being my son-in-law, served, and Michael is half the man he was when I first met him, but at least twice the man of what he was. He was about 340 pounds or something. Now he's 170. He'll tell us a little bit about that, I think, and I'm so proud of him, as others have said. Mike served 4 years in the Marine Corps with a 3rd Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. Another connection I understand that he has with you, Greg, and he may mention that. In Iraqi Freedom. He'll be discussing a program called SHARE Military Initiative, an amazing program, by the way. SHARE is a care program for military veterans, service members, and first responders who are ready to accept help and healing for their daily struggle with traumatic brain injuries and mental health concerns. SHARE is the only comprehensive rehabilitation program with flexible programming options, collaborative care, transition support, and community reintegration. Michael is also willing to share how he's overcome struggles in his life, what his success is, and what has worked for him personally in dealing with PTSD, anxiety, depression, prescription medication. When we first met him, he was on 11 psychotropics concurrently, and alcohol abuse, obesity, and homelessness. He can give a first-hand point of view from utilizing the programs that have been discussed today and that are available. My brother and son-in-law, Michael.
This is the Shared Military Initiative from the Shepherd Center. When I met Colonel Boyle, he helped me get into this program. I reached out to a few nonprofits when I was struggling. I literally had a pistol in my mouth. My wife pulled it out and she said we need to do something. I went back inside, wrote a few nonprofits, Semper Fi Fund being one. The day after that, you were at my house, sir. We went to McDonald's on Christmas Eve. Wonderful meal. A few weeks later, you had me at Share. The rest is history. I went from 327 pounds, abusing my prescription medications, drinking all the time, eating garbage, doing nothing with my life, to I've just run 2 marathons, Marine Corps Marathon with Team Semper Fi. I'm training for a 50K this year, and I attribute my success to the programs that were mentioned here and the Shepherd Center, and so I can talk about that. Next slide, please.
Up arrow, or is that
right side?
Right arrow.
Okay. Here's a neat little graph showing the mortality rates or the suicide rates for veterans, and the veterans with PTSD suicide rates, with PTSD and TBI suicide rates, and then the general population. You can see veterans with PTSD along with traumatic brain injury, the suicide rates are greater. For me, I had several brain injuries while I was serving in Iraq, along with the PTSD from combat-related trauma. I got out and was transitioning poorly, and then of all things, I got into a moped accident and ended up in a coma with another traumatic brain injury. And that aggravated all my other symptoms of PTSD and TBI, and I was just I was not doing well. And I was one of those orange dots there, and it was not going to be good. Next slide. Mild brain injury, traumatic brain injury, is resulting in the brain rattling around inside the skull. It can change how a person thinks, feel, how they learn. And between 2000 and 2019, 413,000 service members were diagnosed with TBI. Most of those were considered mild. It's pretty much the most common, it is the most common injury amongst the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, just with the concussive waves from the explosives that we encounter all the time. Next slide. The symptoms of TBI overlap with PTSD. A lot of times it's hard to tell what's what. You can see the symptoms. I mean, for TBI, you have headaches, dizziness, balance problems, nausea, sensitivity to light and sound, vision changes, impulsivity. And with PTSD, you're on high alert, startled easily, fearful, you have flashbacks, nightmares, guilty feelings, avoidance, numbness, self-destructive behavior. And then the overlapping symptoms, a lot of those things will come with TBI as well. And those symptoms in the middle there are overlapping. Trouble with memory, sleep problems, fatigue, feeling depressed. I mean, that just comes with both. The Shepherd Center, it's a hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. It was established in 1975 by the Harold and Elna Shepherd. It's one of 2 spinal cord injury rehab hospitals. They're building a new facility. They treat the general public with brain injuries, and they have an MS clinic, spinal cord injuries, and it's been ranked one of the top 12 rehab hospitals by U.S. News and World Report. They offer spinal cord, brain injury, MS, and outpatient clinics. The Shared Military Initiative at Shepherd was established in 2008 by Bernie Marcus, who is, I believe, he's the Home Depot founder. He put together the seed money. He also linked up a program while you're at Shepherd where they do outings, and with his money, they allow us to go swim with whale sharks in Giorgio Aquarium, which is just magical. It was very healing in itself. In 2003, Share served 138 clients, and you can see the numbers there. I'm not going to read them all individually. They have two training or two treatment teams, an A team and a B team. They just started a C team to accommodate more veterans and first responders. You guys see it? Who they serve is post 9/11 active duty, reserve, veterans, and first responders. There was a lot of, there was a few of the agency folks down there when I was there. Active duty, the Green Berets from 1st and 4th Group, a few Navy SEALs. They treat everybody that served after 9/11, whether, like I said, it be first responders or veterans. They do not have to be diagnosed with a TBI, but there needs to be you have to be experiencing symptoms of a TBI to apply. And it does not have to be a result of your combat or in your time in service. So my qualifying TBI was the moped accident where I was doing nothing besides wasting my life, and that was qualifying to get me in. When you get there, they establish a client-centered goal. They want to know what you want to improve on. Like what Ali was talking about with the Independence Program, what does the veteran or first responder want to improve on? And when I went the first time, it was I wanted to do more. I wanted to live, and I was trying to find out what I wanted to do. And they build your treatment plan off of these things. You meet with a case manager with your admissions. You meet with a physical therapist, occupational therapist, speech pathologist, recreational therapist. I mean, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't even know I wanted to have any fun. Rec therapy can help work through that. Work with a clinical social worker, a neuropsychologist, a psychologist. You meet with a nurse, a physician, transition support. They have transition support follows you for a year after you discharge from the program to continue to make sure that you know how to access what you've learned, help you connect with things that are in your community. There's a chaplain. They help link you with voc rehab. They have a peer support specialist and a program tech that will help you while you're at the program. The application process is you call down there and they now have Zoom where you can do an interview. The application, you do an online questionnaire, you submit 2 years of medical records, you prove your service, and the admissions team reviews it and gives you a call. The treatment options, the day program, which I attended, and I've gone to this program twice, they don't close the doors on you. When you go through the program, you graduate. I refer to it as the end of the beginning. You're not ending any program, it's just the next step. When my tools ran out, when I wasn't able to access what they taught me or what I learned from them, I reached back out and they re-admitted me. I went down to the day program. It's Monday through Friday, 8 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. They have a modified day program for 3 or more of the services, 2 of the days of the week. That's helpful for folks that live in the area. They have a virtual option available for the Southeast states. And for locals, they do have single service outpatient sessions available. I don't think that will apply here. The length of stay could be anywhere from 2 to 14 weeks. As I said, when I went down there, I stayed the first time for, they said 12 weeks. When I got towards the end, I wasn't quite grasping the concepts, so they extended my stay there. I just advocated and they helped facilitate that. Every week you have the teams meet together, all the clinicians will meet on Thursdays and decide how your treatment's going and see if they need to continue you or carry out your treatment. The individual sessions, you meet with a medical doctor, neurology and psychiatry exams if needed. The nurse to work on your medication. When I went, the doctor and the nurse said I was on a deployment dose of medications. They said I was ready to be numb. I was numbed up good for deployment, so they helped me cut that back. Case management, my case manager help facilitate getting there, family needs, problems I'd have in the housing they offered. Case manager's great. Physical therapy. I had no idea what a vestibular system was until I got down there. Wow, did they help work on it. So they helped work on my balance, my dizziness, as well as sports trauma. Occupational therapy helped with basic vision and recreation time, as well as the sensory stimulus tolerance. I couldn't go to the grocery store back in 2015. It was too overwhelming for my mind. I go in and go, nope, and I turn around and walk out. My wife would have to do all the grocery shopping. Now I'm the one that does it. They help me manage those symptoms so that I can function in an everyday world. As I said, rep therapy, leisure activities, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Speech pathology, it's amazing the cognition that comes out of doing little simple exercises with speech pathology. That was very helpful. Behavioral health, typical talk docs, working on your trauma, anxiety, anger, depression. Sleep's a big component of that. Additional, you have peer support. They have a person there that you can just talk to and hang out with if you need it. The groups they have, and the groups are good. It's that banter you get from being in with the brothers and sisters in the military or in the first responder community. You get that back and forth. You can learn from each other. You got goal setting, music if you're into that, art, Tai Chi. That's Tai Chi in the water. A lot of people struggle with balance issues. You don't realize until you're on one leg standing, and in the pool is a softer fall. Growth and recovery group. That was a new group when I went down there. It's just about learning how to grow and recover together. Cognition group, the vision group. A lot of times you play games on game boards, but it helps with your cognition, multitasking, things like that. Medication management, relaxation group. You do some yoga nidra exercises, really relax. Horticulture, I never knew how much I like to play with dirt until I went down. Peer support, exercise group. The hardest part about going to the gym is getting there. Once I got an exercise routine, I was going to the gym all the time, and that was helpful to get that kickstart. The key classes, you take a specific mental health issue, they make it a key issue for the week, and they highlight that and you get educated on. Community outings, like I said, we went to the Georgia Aquarium and swam with whale sharks. We went biking on the Comet Trail. It's a trail that goes from Georgia down to Alabama. We did grocery outings. We go out as a group to the grocery store just for that safety net with your brothers and sisters. And aquatics group, go play in the pool. The timeline, the intake process from submitting my application or the application to when they call you takes about 3 to 4 weeks. The evaluation process, so it's an in-person evaluation, at least my experience. They do have a hybrid for those folks that need it. The evaluation process is 2 weeks long, and they go through, they test you, and that's really exhausting work. I've never slept so well in my life. And then they come up with a treatment plan for you at the end of the 2 weeks. They do a telephone conference with your family to include them into the mix, and they listen to your family. One of the other veterans that I went there, his wife said, this is the first time they listened to me. They didn't go, and move on to what they were talking about. They stopped and listened to her, and that was very valuable. The treatment, 3 to 12 weeks. I've heard of someone being there for 16 weeks. And as I said, the transition care continues for a year after. Transition support, they do the year of post-treatment support. It's accountability and advocacy support education. And it just helps connect with community resources and community care. Here are the barriers: cost, flights, housing, leaving home, substance use, sleep, health and safety. They really solve it all. I paid nothing out of pocket. Anything I did pay, I submitted. When I went there the first time, I was struggling with paying for groceries at 2 households down in Georgia and up here. They had a financial assistance form to fill out, and they would issue grocery cards to those that need it. For flights, they partner with the airline, so they can get a voucher to go down. They flew my wife down twice for the program. Once to test the program to make sure, to see if what I was working on was helping with everyday things, and then once for graduation. The second time I went through the program, I went for a work group to work with Dad here with some horses in South Carolina, and that was helpful to see what I was learning that time I could use in everyday life. Housing is available during an evaluation and treatment. It's a little efficiency apartment they give you to live in Buckhead, Atlanta. It's North Atlanta. It's the safer part of the city. Yeah, it's not the safest place, but it's safer.
Re-traumatized.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a nice part of the city. It's a couple blocks from the program, so you can walk if you want to. And the hospital's right there. They have a great Olympic-sized swimming pool and a fully adaptive gym. And there are virtual treatments for those, and flexible treatments for those that need it. If you have a substance use disorder or you're experiencing substance abuse, they want you to be avoid of that when you show up. They will help you find a clinic if you need it. They ask you to have it's a dry facility. They don't want any alcohol, no cannabis use, so they can see what they're doing. They want to control what was happening to you. So that's a requirement. And if you need a caregiver to attend, that is a possibility as well. They have a pull-out sofa, and there's plenty of room in the efficiency department. Here's a contact. Jackie, the program manager, she's been the program manager since at least the first time I went in 2016. I told her it was the first place where I was in a deep, dark hole when I went. Colonel Boyle, I don't know if you can attest to that. I was not doing well. I was miserable. And they're the first ones that put their hand out and said, here's the way. Semper Fi funds got me to go, gave me the resource, and they pulled me out of that deep dark hole, and together I can't say enough good things. These two folks, AJ and Alexandria, are great resources for outreach. If you have any questions, you can give them a call, or Jackie or Dina. All right. Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. As I said to you, sir, before, I reached out to several nonprofits. I'm not going to name the other ones that didn't reach back, but when I said I need help, the fund reached back out and said, here's somebody to help. And he showed up to my house. I mean, no phone call, didn't show up at the house. That support is why I'm here today. The continued support, the follow through. I've gone to, since I left Shepherd in 2016, I've been looking for other things. I feel like something's not quite right. With Independence program through Wounded Warrior, I found acupuncture and yoga that's really helped maintain my sanity, if you will. It all kind of came to fruition when I went to Travis Mills this past January. The PATH program was the icing on the cake. It took all the things I was doing, mindfulness, proper eating, sleep hygiene, journaling, and it put a nice little bow on it. And it was just, and that follow through again, 90 days of follow-up care with the program to make sure that you were using the tools and checking in with yourself and seeing what works. Those are so important, I think, the follow through. I continue with my exercise journey. Like the Colonel said, I'm going to be down in DC again running a 50K this year. It was great. I felt it very full circle how you, sir, were there when I reached out for help in 2015, and then you were there at the finish line for Marine Corps Marathon this year. And that was awesome. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Could we have a hand for this incredible group?